Good day, my wonderful viewers. So welcome once again to Frequency Online Math. So today we'll be solving past questions on MTH under numerical method. So the first question reads: use approximate numerical method to obtain the convergence where possible of the function given by f of x is equals to 2 plus x times exponential negative 5x. So we write our solutions. So because we are not given our initial guess, we are going to use bisection method to get our initial guess. And bisection method, you know that your f of a will be less than 0 and f of b will be greater than what? 0. So we pick our value of x to be what? 0. So putting it in this equation, we are going to have 2 plus 0 times exponential 0 times exponential negative 5 times what? 0. So this will yield us what? 2. Because 0 times all these things is what? 0. So we are going to take x to be minus 1. So it will be 2 plus negative 1 times exponential negative 5 times minus 1. So this will give us what? 2 minus exponential positive what? 5. So I think exponential positive 5 will give us 1 4 something. So it will now be 2 minus this will give us, I think, 146 something something minus 146 something something point something, I think 4 or 8. So now our f of a, we have gotten a positive value and a negative value. F of a is less than 0 and f of b is greater than what? 0. So which one is less than 0 here? So f of a, when our x is minus 1, so our f of a is less than 0. So we got what? Negative what? 1. So when our b is greater than 0, we input the value of x to be what? 0. So f of b is greater than 0. So we have what? 0. So our a is what? Negative 1. Our b is what? 0. So using bisection method, we are going to have our x naught to be what? A plus b all over 2. So what is our a? Our a is what? When it is less than, which is what? This negative. So we have negative 1, then plus b is what? 0. So our a is when we plug x, and it gave us negative. So that's it. Which number do we plug then? Negative 1. So that's our a. When we plug x, it gave us positive. Which number do we plug there? B. Therefore our a is less than 0. As you can see, minus this is less than what? 0, and 2 is greater than what? 0. So all over 2. So which is equals to negative 1 all over 2, which will give us negative 0.5 as our answer. So remember, some people can still decide to do 0 minus 1 like this. 0 minus 1 all over 2. You know that addition is what? Commutative, so it doesn't matter. I'm just following what we got and this. Now we have gotten our initial guess at 0.5. So we are going to use Newton-Raphson method. Using Newton-Raphson method of iteration. So using Newton-Raphson method, we have the formula xn plus 1. X of n plus 1 is equals to xn minus f of x sub n all over f prime of x sub n. So this is Newton-Raphson what? Method. So we are going to have our f of x. So our f of x is this, right? 2 plus x exponential negative 5 times x, right? It is certain. Now let's find our f prime of what? X. So our f prime of x will be what? 2 plus x exponential negative 5x. So using product rule in differentiation, we are going to have that d over the x of what? F of x times g of what? X. That it will give us what? F prime of x. Then you keep your g of x constant. Then plus g prime of x. Then you keep your f of x constant. So using this rule, we are going to have, so this one, first one, differentiating this one is already 0, so it's out. So we are going to have 0 plus derivative of x, that's first one, we give you what? 1 times g of x, you keep it constant, that is this. Then plus g prime, you know that this one is our g. So let's take this one first. You know that multiplication is commutative, it doesn't matter. So g prime, let's take our f of x, put it constant. G prime, differentiating this, you know that your exponential differentiation, it will be this negative with times this, so it will be negative 5. So this thing will be times negative 5. You put this thing as it is. That's the differentiation. So let me complete it here. So we are going to have 1 times this will give us exponential negative 5x, exponential negative 5 times x, then plus, so minus 5 times all this thing here will change to minus exponential, sorry, it will be minus x exponential, sorry, it will be minus 5x exponential negative 5x, like this, because this time this will still give us this. So we can factorize, so it will be exponential negative 5x, then 1 minus 5x. So this is f prime of x, therefore f prime of x is exponential negative 5x, then 1 minus 5x. So we have gotten the values that we are going to use to solve these questions. We have gotten our f of x, which is already here, which is already in the question. So we have gotten f prime. So let's iterate for when n is 0. So let's iterate. So let us iterate. So all I need is these values. Which value do I need? This one is already here. So all I need is this. And I think I have it up head. I have it up head. So let me clean all these values. Okay. Let me write it here. F prime of x, so that you'll be remembering it, exponential negative 5x, 1 minus 5x. Let me just write it. So let us iterate. Hope you can see it. So let us iterate. So when n is 0, when n is 0, we are going to have, remember our formula, xn plus 1 is equals to xn minus f of what? Xn all over f prime of what? Xn. So when n is 0, we are going to have now x of what? Okay, but before then, before this step, let's put when n is 0. So in this, okay, we are still correct in what we are doing. We are still correct, no problem. When n is 0, when n is 0, so we are going to have x of what? X of n plus 1 is equals to xn minus f of x sub n all over f prime of x sub n. So we are still correct in what we are doing. I not wanted to put it in this formula. I just wanted to just solve it like that, but nevertheless, we are going to have, when n is 0, it will now be x 0 plus 1 is equals to x0 minus f of what? X0 all over f prime of what? X0. So but we don't know what our x0 is, so let us find it. So we are going to find f of x0 and f prime of what? X0. This is what I wanted to do ab initio before this, so but nevertheless. So to find our f of x0, it will now be f of x0 will now be, we know the value of x0, yes, we know it, so we put it here in this f of x, 2 plus x exponential negative 5x, right? So we are now going to have 2 plus, our x is negative 0.5, then exponential negative 5 times negative 0.5. So let's punch it in our calculator and see what we are going to get. So we got minus 4.0912. So now we have gotten our f of x naught. So to get our f prime of x naught, what will it be now? F prime of x naught will be, putting it in this, because we have gotten our f prime of x, so it will be exponential negative 5, then negative 0.5. Let me just clean this, times 1 minus 5 negative 0.5. So I'm supposed to have this thing in my mind, so I think I have it in my mind. Let me check it again. So it's a negative 5x, 1 minus 5x. Okay, I have it in my mind. So it will be helpful so that I will not start to be writing it all over again. So we are going to have f prime of x naught will give us what? When we do this in our calculator, see our calculator, we are going to do exponential negative 5 times, I hope you are seeing it, negative 5 times negative 0.5, close it, then bring this thing down, times 1 minus 5 times negative 0.5. 1 minus 5 times negative, so it will give you 42.638. I hope you can see it. Okay, we are going to make it to 3 dp, 4 dp, 4 decimal places. So that's it. You always make it to 4 decimal places is always good. So now I'm bringing this formula. We have x 0 plus 1 is what? 1. So it will be x naught. Let me write the formula so you'll not get confused. So this thing is equals to our x naught is what? The value we got in our x naught, negative 0. Our x naught is what? Negative 0.5 ab initio, if you can still remember. So then minus f of x naught is what? This, negative 4.0912. Then all over f prime of x naught is this. So if you do it well, your x1 will be, let me punch it in my calculator. So we have our x1 to be negative 0.4040. Remember to 4 dp at least. So we have gotten our x1. So let's iterate again. So iterating again, we are going to look for our x2. So second iteration, you call it second iteration. So our x2 will now be x sub n. Remember the formula, so it will now be n is what? Which one are we looking for? X of x2 now. We have looked for 0, so it will now be 1 plus 1. You get? So is equals to x1 We are now going to use x1 to find what? Our x2. So we are going to have x1 minus f of what? X1 all over f prime of what? X1. You get? So we are now going to have our x1 is what? Is already 0 points. Okay, minus this, so no need. So we are going to have f of x1 will be what? Bring this formula. We have 2 plus, anywhere we see x, we now replace it with what? This x1. So anywhere we see x1, we replace it with this. Anywhere we see x, replace it with this x1. That's what it means. F of x1, that's the first one. You understand? That will give us the value for our x2. I don't know if you understand this. So our x1 is the, okay, just looking at this formula. So anytime you see f of x, let your mind go here. Anytime you see f prime of x, let me write this small. F prime of x, let your mind go here. Exponential negative 5x 1 minus 5x. So let your mind go at this formula, on this formula. Anyway, so these two formulas are essential. So f of x and f prime of x, anytime you see it, just let your mind go there. So then exponential negative 5 times negative 0.4040. It's not 4040, it's just 4040. So let's do it well. Let's do it well with our calculator. So we have gotten our f of x1 to be minus 1.0455, approximately to 4 decimal place. So let me clean this. So which other thing is remaining? We are going to find f prime of x1, right? So f prime of x1 is what? Exponential negative 5 times, what's that value for x1? So that's the value. So we are going to have times 1 minus 5 times negative 0.4040. So when you do it well, your f prime of x1 will be, let's punch it in our calculator. So if you do it well, this is the answer you are going to get. So our, you know that our formula we gave you now. So x1 plus 1, which is now x2, will be what? x1 minus f of what? x1, then all over f prime of what? x1. So our x2 will now be what? x1 is what? Thank God this is here. Negative 1. No, this thing is f of x1. So f of x1 is what? Negative 1.0455. Then all over f prime of x1, which is this 22.7657. And I think our x1 is negative 0.4040, right? So yes, I think that's our x1, negative 0.4040. We are going to have negative 0.4040 minus. So when you punch it in your calculator, our x2 is negative 0.3581. If you notice, our x1 and x2, they are not the same value, so it have not converged yet. So we do another iteration. We iterate again. Now, third iteration. So our formula is xn plus 1 is equals to xn minus f of what? Xn all over f prime of what? Xn. So now remember, we have gotten our x2, right? So it will now be x2 plus what? 1. So here will now be what? X what? 2. So here we f of x2 sorry for the interruption, I received the call. So we have x of what? F prime of x2, right? So it's what we are going to use to obtain for the third iteration. So we are going to have x2 plus 1 will be what? 3 is equals to x2 minus f of x2 all over f prime of what? x2. So now we are going to get our f of x2. We are going to get for f so f of x2 will give us what? See what we are going to use. 2 plus x exponential negative 5x. So anywhere we see x, we put this x2. We're going to put negative 0.3581. Then what else? Exponential negative 5 times negative 0.3581. So this is what we are going to use. So f of x2 will give us what? 2. So if you do this thing well, let me do it with my calculator and get the answer. So the value you are going to get if you do it well is this negative 0.1459. What are we getting again? F prime of x2. So we are going to get f prime of x2. See the formula we are going to put it here. Exponential negative 5 times negative 0.3581. Then times 1 minus 5 times negative 0.3581. So if you do it well, this answer, you are going to get this answer. So if you do it well, you are going to get f prime of x2 will give you this. So putting it in this our formula, let me clean this side. Putting it in this our formula to obtain our x3. So x3 is equals to x2 minus f of x2 all over f prime of what? x2. So we'll be getting x3 is equals to x2 is what? Negative 0.3581. Then minus f prime of x2. Sorry, f of x2 is this. So minus 0.1459. So if I get this thing I'm getting, I'll clean out this place. So f prime is what? 16.7219. So let me clean this place. We'll be having x3 is equals to, so let's punch it in our calculator. If you punch it well, parentheses, let me show you 0.3581, then plus 0.1459, because minus is plus. Then we are going to have 0.504 all over 0.504 divided by 16.7219. So we'll be getting x3 is equal to 0.0314. 0.0301. 1, 2, 3, 4. At least to 4 dp. Sorry, I made mistake. This thing is supposed to be, I pressed it in my calculator once, so it gave me wrong answer. So let's do it manually. So this thing is minus 0.3581. Then minus is plus, right? Let's divide this. So 0.1459 divided by 16.7219. So this will give me 0.008725085007. So when you add them, it will be negative 0.3581 plus 0.00708725085007. So this will give you negative 0.3494 approximately. So that's my x3. So we have gotten our x3. So if we take our x2 and our x3, it is not converging. They are not the same thing. At least 2 decimal places, they are not the same value. So we do for fourth iteration. We iterate the fourth time. Fourth iteration. So xn plus 1 is equals to xn minus f of what? F of xn, right? All over f prime of what? Xn. So we'll be having this. We're having x, so it will be 3 plus 1. So 3 plus 1, because it's the fourth one. Then x3 will be here, minus f of what? X3, all over f prime of what? X3. Right? So we'll be having x4 is equals to x3 minus f of x3 all over f prime of what? X3. So our x4 will be what? We don't know our x3, right? So we find our f of x3. Our f of x3 will be what? Using this formula, 2 plus our x3 is what? This 0.3494, right? Then exponential negative 5 times minus 0.3494. So if you do it well, f of x3 will give you, actually if you want you can press this one direct in your calculator, but when it comes to division, divide first using board mass. You get? So you're going to have 2 plus negative, okay, let me press it once. So if you do it well, you are going to get this negative 0.0046. Now we are going to get f prime of x3 using this formula they gave us, or we drew, minus 5. Now x3 is this, right? 0.3494. Then 1 minus 5 times minus 0.3494. So when you do it, you are going to get this. So let's do it once. So if you do it well, this is what you are going to get. F prime of x3 is this. The reason why I pause the video and press the calculator is because of time. I don't want this video to be long. It's already long now, 26 minutes. So that's why I don't press the calculator in your front. I pause it, then I press it, I put the answer. So this is our thing. So our x4 will now be x3, which is, what's our x3? This negative 0.3494. Then minus f of x3. What's our f of x3? This 0.0046 all over f prime is what? 15.706. So when you press it well, you are going to get what? Let me press it. So this is our x4 minus 0.3493. So we have gotten x3, and if you look closely, x3 and x4, they have the same values, at least to 2 decimal places, so they will converge there. So let's go for x5, fifth iteration. Let's check. So I've already seen where it converges. The roots converge at x is equals to negative distance. So let's just check for x5. So it will be x n plus 1 is equals to xn minus f of x sub n over f prime of what? X sub n. So we are going to have, let's find for our distance. So it will be n will be now 4. So 4 plus 1 is equals to x4 minus f of what? X, n is 4, right? All over f prime of x, n is what? 4. So we are going to be having x of what? 5 is equals to, x4 is what? What's the value we got there? Negative. Okay, but before then, we are going to find for f of x4. So we are going to have f of x4 will give us what? 2 plus our x4 is negative 0.3493. Then let me clean this side. Let me clean all this thing. So we'll be having this times exponential negative 5 times negative 0.34. So let's punch it in our calculator. If you do it well, you are going to get this. So this is the value we are going to get. So now let's look for f prime of what? X4. F prime of X4 will be using this one, exponential negative 5 negative 0.0031. Sorry. Negative 0.3493, which is our x now, x4. So then times 1 minus 5 negative 0.349493. So let's punch it. So if you do it well, you are going to get your x4 to be positive 15.7498. So we are going to have x 4 plus 1 will be x5 is equals to x4 minus f of x4 all over f prime of what? X4. So this thing will give us what? Our x4 is what? Negative. Our x4 is what? Negative 0.0031 minus f of x4. Wow. So what's our x4? I think our x4 is this. Sorry. So our x4 is this. Negative 0.3493. That's our f4. Because that's what we get to. So minus f of x4 is what? Minus 0.0031 all over f prime of x4 is 15.7498. So our x5 will be minus 0.393493. Minus minus is what? Plus. Let's divide this. 0.0031 divided by 15.7498. So we'll be getting 0.0001968279. So when we add them, x5 going to have negative 0.3493 plus 0.0001968276. So we are getting negative 0.3491. 0.3491. Okay, so that's our x5. So I'm supposed to stop this thing because we are getting 0.349 at least. I think in our x3 and x what's that thing again? x3 and x4. So we are getting the same value. So let me just think of going for x6. Let me know whether I will get the same approximate value with this one. 3 points. Let me just suffer myself and go for the extra. But at least if you do it for, if you have 2 decimal places repeating, it means that to converge. But I just want to know whether I will get the same exact value with this. So sixth iteration. My sixth iteration will be x5 plus 1 is equals to xn minus f of x. Okay, f of this one will be f of 5 all over f prime of x of what? 5. So let me find my f of x of 5. So it will be 2 plus x exponential negative, sorry, my x is what? My x is minus 0.3491, then exponential negative 5 times minus 0.3491. So that's it. So f of x of 5 will give me. So if you punch it in your calculator, so if you do it well, you are going to get your x5 to be 0.0001. So let me clean this place. So see the values I need. My x5 is 0.0001. Then that's f of x5. Then my normal f of x, that's normal x5 is what? This one is f of x5. Then my x5 is what? Minus 0.3491. So these are the two values I need, so I can clean out these terms. This one is the grind. Yes. So let's continue. So we are now, the body is still wet. Let's wait small. Let me actually repeat the one. I think it's okay now. So remember, we have found our f of x5. So we are now going to find f prime of what? x5 using exponential negative 5 times. Our x5 is what? Negative 0.3491. Then parenthesis 1 minus 5 times negative 0.3491. So that's it here. So f prime of x5 will be, if you punch it in your calculator. So if you do it well, this is the value you are going to get. So now we have x6, right, is equals to x sub 5 minus f of x sub 5 all over f prime of x sub what? 5. So our x is, that's the sixth iteration. S sub 6 is, x5 is what? Thank God it's still here, 0.0001 minus f of x5 is what? Thank God is, no, I misplaced this, sorry, 3491. That's it here. X5. Then f of x5 is what? This. This one is what? 15.72. X is will be 0. Remember, it's up minus 3491 minus, when you divide the 0.0001 divided by 15.72 is 3. So I'm going to have minus 0.0000. How many zeros? 2, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 3, 5, 7, 7, 9, 7. So you are going to do 0.3491 minus 0.1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 3, 5, 9, 7. So our x's will be 0.3491 approximately. 3491. So if you notice, all these things are stressed, yeah? So if you notice, where it converges is what? At x, this thing. Where it converges is at x6 and x5. If you notice, x5 have minus. This one is not having minus. Problem. Do you see? Okay. Let's see. It have minus. I forgot to put this minus when I was calculating. I will say after all this. Hi, Jesus. So, our x6, where it converges at x6 and x5. If you see, x5 have minus 0.3491. X is the same value, approximately to 4 dp. So, the convergence is at x. So you can write the convergence is at x equals to minus 0.3491. So we can just clean this. So do you see that if you keep on doing it, it will be the same thing? I hope you can see it too. So the convergence is at x is equals to minus this, which is the root of this function. So this is the end of the question. If you like, you can still construct a table if you like. Then this one can be your serial number, then xn, then f of xn, and f prime of what? Xn. So to put all these things you got there. So when xn, when we have x naught, then x1, you put the values x1. What is x1? What is f of x1? What is f prime of x1? You do for 2. But I cannot remember all these things. I've cleaned the board. So you just do it. X naught, I think, is minus 0.5. Then f of x naught, you put the value when you go to f of x naught. I cannot remember again. So you can just put it up. That's it. Bye-bye.